Good evening. I'm going to turn off the Zoom over there. Hey, this is Matt Sayre from Onward, Eugene, and I've been looking forward to this fireside chat all day. Grab a cocktail and join us for an intimate fireside chat. See, there's the fire with Kevin Barrett, founder of Swallowtail Spirits. Kevin's going to be sharing stories from the front lines of business and entrepreneurship, from tears. You did say tears earlier.
Yeah.
To hand sanitizer, which is a very real thing these days, and everything in between. So, Kevin, how are you?
Doing good, Matt. How you doing?
It's really good to see you.
You too.
Been a long day, but looking forward to winding things down with you here. So before we dive in, there's this thing specifically that I've been looking forward to. So let's start with the best stuff first. What's your recipe for a lemon drop? And any chance we can make one now?
I just happen to have some stuff set up right back here because I was going to have a drink. I thought maybe I'd make you one as well.
I'm totally down, man. Thank you for offering.
No problem. Lemon drop is a fairly simple recipe. It's equal parts of just about everything. I've got a couple of martini glasses with ice and water in them. If you don't have them in your freezer, it's just a way to glass nice and frothy. So right before I strain into the glass, I'll dump those the ice and everything out. But normally you start with one lemon. It's usually just half of a lemon. But since I'm making one for the two of us, we're going to use them both. And just realized that I did forget my juice squeezer, which is right here. Let me grab that.
So as I recall, you actually have the sweetener like on tap.
Correct. Yeah. So mostly for our busy times, we can go one of two ways. We can either do the cocktail made to order, which is how we prefer to. But when we really start to get backed up, we have a cocktail that I've already pre-batched on tap, and we've got 3 cocktails that way. We've got our lemon drop, our lime gimlet, and our hibiscus gin cocktail.
Nice.
And hopefully get to the point where we can sell growlers of cocktails, like people can sell growlers of beer, so that you can take those home with you. Some licensing behind that we still got to take care of, but we'll get there. So take each half of the lemon and just juice it.
Fancy.
Yeah, and then you're going to do that with equal parts of simple syrup. So our recipe, straightforward, is just 1 part lemon juice to 1 part simple syrup. Once the 2 are mixed, then it's 1 part of that to 1 part of vodka. Really a pretty simple recipe. So there's my lemon juice. I'm going to go ahead and top that, or put in equal amounts of simple syrup. I'm going to eyeball this one. But there. Now I'm going to throw this into a shaker filled with ice. And then do equal parts of vodka. Since I don't know exactly how many ounces that was, I can do the same thing here.
Okay.
So kind of frosty.
So you cut the lemon, mixed in the simple syrup, and now comes the vodka.
All right. Whoops, I think I did a little too much vodka there. Dang it.
It's going to be a stiff drink.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Let's mix all 3 together, and then you want to shake. Now, this is the part that some people just stir, some people shake. I shake for a really, really long, vigorous time because I want it to be really frothy and have the ice in there, so it's just insanely cold.
Okay. Nice and dizzy. Nice.
Walking backwards and forwards like a count. But I usually go for about 20, 30 seconds.
Okay.
Almost to the point where I can barely hear the ice anymore, depending on what size ice cubes you have. And now I'm going to get my strainer. Another thing I forgot to throw on there.
So the strainer is normally in the top of the shaker, right?
Depending on what kind of shaker you've got. Some of them are built in. That is the specific design of some. I can't remember what they call that one. I don't consider myself a bartender. I make the alcohol, but I usually leave the cocktailing to my crew.
Okay.
So now we'll just fill up our martini glasses. And then there is one final step that we do that's a little different than most others. And the lemon wedge, or lemon slice. So a lot of times the bars will have extra lemons and limes and stuff left over at the end of the night. So we take those and we slice them and then dehydrate it. So I just toss the lemon slice on the cocktail, and then we top it with one of our flavored vodkas. So either raspberry, marionberry, blackberry, boysenberry, marionberry. I just pour it right onto the lemon slice, and it creates an effect where it's just floating.
Because it's different temperature, is that how that works?
Difference in viscosity. So the higher the proof alcohol, the lighter it is, and it's going to stay on top. So obviously, the raspberry vodka is a little bit lighter than the rest of the vodka, so it's going to sit on top there. And here, let me get this one to you. There you go.
Thanks, Kevin. Oh.
Do mine straight up. So, cheers.
Cheers. So, you guys are really known for your gin. At least that's what I know you from. And I think there's a good story about that, and there's a really good story about your whiskey.
So the gin's been really, it's kind of set me back that how well it's been received. I had never made gin before. I knew the components that went into gin, and oddly enough, the very first distillation that I did of gin happens to be what is now our Navy strength gin. So that was the first time I made gin and first recipe I had. And I just kind of understood what to do with the components, but I had never done it before. So the way that it turned out, and as good as it turned out, is kind of shocking to me because I didn't do it from any educated stance other than a lot of research and reading, but I didn't try out, multiple different recipes. I was pretty shocked at how well it turned out. But then we decided to take that gin and make that our base for all of our gin. So just juniper, coriander, and angelica root. Now the Navy strength is 114 proof. That's not the only product I can put out as a gin, so I dialed it down, added some more botanicals, and we came out with our what we call our American Contemporary gin, and that's additional orange peel, lime zest, so it's very citrus and very floral, much like a Hendrick's gin.
So the first time I visited your tasting room when it was out on High Banks Road, I heard the story of what exactly Navy strength means.
So in the 17th, 18th centuries, all British warships were mandated to carry gin on board, and they stored it below deck in barrels along with the gunpowder. And you might imagine that through some rough seas, a barrel might topple over and break. Well, if the gin got all over everything, like the gunpowder, it was very important that the gunpowder still be able to ignite. And at 114 proof, that's where the gunpowder will still ignite even though it's doused in alcohol. So stored at that proof or higher on a ship. And they could take it back to the manufacturer. If it wasn't made to that specification, they could show them by pouring the gin on the gunpowder. If it didn't ignite, that was their proof that it was not up to one story behind how proof system started.
I love it. I do a couple shout outs. I see Robert Shirley, who we both know, is joining us this evening. Also, our maybe our mutual good friend and Justin Bloom. So good to see those names in the list. Shauna Mills and Mark Forrest, several other folks that I haven't met yet, but hey, cheers to you guys.
And Mark and I may be getting into some business together soon as well. So
that's good to hear. So let's also talk about your whiskey, which I just happened to get a bottle of the other night. I don't know if you can see this bottle. Maybe there. It's a really cool bottle. The label on the front.
Yeah, so I wanted to do something a little different. So I made the front label a metal plate. Every label is hand patinaed, so every plate is different. We've actually turned some of those into belt buckles that my mom had an idea for. But very unique bottle. Definitely a lot of time and effort went into that packaging. But that is a 5-year corn whiskey, which difference between a corn whiskey and a bourbon is that a corn whiskey has to be, a corn whiskey is usually 100% corn. A bourbon has to be 51% or more corn. Now, a bourbon has to be aged on new, unused barrels, whereas a corn whiskey has to be aged on used barrels. So a lot of the similar profile, not as the sweet caramels and vanillas that you'd get in a bourbon, but still kind of the same tone of a bourbon. But then what we did to make it even more unique was age it for a couple of weeks on King Estate Pinot Noir cask.
Ooh, another local partnership. It sounds like.
Yeah, we do partnerships. The other whiskeys that we make, we work with Ninkasi, and we take their Otis Oatmeal Stout and we turn that into an Irish style whiskey. So a stout is usually an Irish style beer, turn it into an Irish style whiskey, and we just leave the hops out and make it an imperial stout before we turn it into a whiskey. And then we also work with Planktown Brewing to have them do our mash for our peat smoked single malt whiskey. So it's a Scotch style, but both of those are on the horizon. We've released some very small amounts of the Otis, but the Scotch style is definitely still underway, and we're hoping to do a release on the Otis maybe when this is all over.
Okay, well, I'm counting on that. So some of these guys who are in attendance this evening, I think you guys all know each other from the Eugene Regional Accelerator, and you were part of a cohort several years ago. Can you tell us about that experience, the Business Accelerator?
Yeah, if Shane and sorry, if any of the Rain people are there, like Joe Marushak, they'll probably confirm this, but it was interesting. I'd been following Rain in the paper, and I thought this was a really unique program. It gives people an opportunity to get some education that they may not have had before. They take ideas and help turn them into products. So I went to them and interviewed with Shane and Joe, and they denied me pretty much. The first go around, they said that it was much more high tech based and software development, things like that, which was understandable. It's a fast moving system, and you can put a lot of it and just create one product and never have to do anything or not much with that product again afterwards. And they said, well, you've already got a product and it's already on the shelves and you're only selling it, so I don't know what we can do for you. So I left. Then a few months later, I get an email from them stating that they're now opening up to consumer-based goods, and I might want to take a look at applying. So yeah. They denied me again. Same premise, though, that they thought, there was just way more that I was going to be doing for them than they were going to be doing for me. And I finally spoke up and I said, no, you don't understand. I mean, I know how to make a product. I know how to sell a product. I have no idea how to run a business. And if I'm going to do this and really jump in, full force, I don't let things, they have to succeed. I don't let things not succeed or fail. And I work my rear off and just to make sure that does happen. So they allowed me to go ahead and audit Rain, I guess. And about halfway through, I kind of really realized that maybe I am a part of this cohort now, and they let me ride through the rest of the session. And it was a magnificent experience. It really is one of those that you get out of it what you put into it.
Sure.
But you have the opportunity to really hone your skills on specific areas that you need the most help in. And it was incredibly beneficial, I think, because now I'm in my second facility and sales are continuing. We're beyond the 5-year mark and still here. So
hey, if anyone who's in attendance wants to ask a question, just use the Q&A button, and even if you want to razz him a little bit, Kevin's up for that. So you were just talking about how you're in your new location, and as I understand it, you guys, the soft opening in September.
Yeah, that was actually our first grand opening. We're going to have a grander opening because
I like grander openings.
we opened and then closed. We closed due to this, and to take a company that had just gone through a fairly large investment into a new facility, relying wholly on its customers coming in those doors and sitting down and having cocktails and something to eat, to have that turned off at the flick of a switch was devastating. When I talk about tears,
let's talk about that. So that was in March when the governor had that executive order that shut you guys down. How did that hit you?
Well, March is when we start to see things going into summer. Usually December, January for sure. January is usually the worst month of the year for most distilleries because everybody makes their New Year's resolutions. Usually about the middle of January, we start to see a rise back up in sales, but when they start quitting their resolutions. But March was going to hopefully be a good month for us. We had some things that had worked out for us in February, where we did a Valentine's Day dinner, a 5-course dinner that was just turned out really, really well. We want to do the same thing for Mother's Day next month, and but more likely that's not going to happen. But we were really ramping up and starting to schedule some events, and then this hit, and I had, for 5 previous to this, I had no employees. I've been running this pretty much by myself and with some help from my partners in the production side. But to go from finally being able to employ some people and get moving to having to now lay off everyone, because other than my general manager and myself, that was the staff that was remaining. He was on salary, and I just brought him on. I needed to have him help get me away from this facility. I pretty much lived here for the last year and X amount of months, finishing this off and building it. Where I'm needed is outside doing sales, so I brought him on, and that was just to keep him around and really figure out what needed to happen in this facility, in hopes that we were going to open right back up. That's going to happen, but yeah, that was quite devastating. And most of the people who were working for me as bartenders probably had other jobs as well, but they were also probably bartenders at other places. And I knew that was going to impact them pretty significantly. I only feel that I was in a okay spot myself for the last 5 years because I have a really low mortgage payment and I don't have to pay myself very much to live. That's the only reason I was able to do this business in the first place. But I've been worried, and then about 2 weeks in, well, I had already started thinking about it. I made one time, and I said, knowing that everybody was starting to pour.
Kevin, on my side, you cut out a little bit, so hopefully it's just me. We're about to talk about hand sanitizer is the next on the repertoire. So Kevin, if you can hear me, maybe move just a little bit closer to your Wi-Fi access point. We'll hang in there for just a minute. This is the part where everybody pours themselves a refresher. I'm going to go ahead and have a sip of my lemon drop, compliments the Swallowtail. We'll see if he pops back in and joins us here in just a sec. So go ahead and grab another cocktail. We'll be right back. Hey, Justin Bloom, are you still out there? I see you in the list. Hope you're doing well. Saw that picture that you posted in the Slack group about the police department picking up the masks. That's pretty fantastic. So nice work on that. Also, shout out to you, Robert, for securing those masks. I think this is him calling me here. Just one sec. Hi, this is Matt.
Kevin.
Hey.
Did you want to try to continue? I don't know if you still have feed on.
Yeah, I totally do. Just hop right back in.
Okay.
All right.
It's not running on my side though. I'm trying to, and it's just not connecting. So it could be service in my area.
Okay.
Let me try to go to the link again. It was trying to connect. I say we could always try to continue through the phone if need be.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they would pick it up on speaker.
Yeah. Just go ahead and try and reconnect to your Wi-Fi, and if it works, we'll go back on. If not, we'll wish everybody an adieu.
It does say not connected. It's not showing me.
So you lost your Wi-Fi. So let me put you on speaker and see if this works. Hold on one sec. All right, so I've got Kevin here via speaker. Kevin, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Hopefully everyone can hear me.
Justin, Robert, can you hear Kevin this way? Just give me a little message there. Yeah, okay, so we're rocking, Kevin.
Okay.
People really want to know first about your pivot to hand sanitizer. So obviously that there's a huge spike in demand for hand sanitizer. How did you guys respond to that?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going, was that with the hoarding of all of it, I had posted a thing on Facebook and I said, hey, the primary ingredient in hand sanitizer is alcohol. Hurry down to Swallowtail and get yours before it's all gone.
Right.
And somebody didn't take too advantage of a disease and to make profit. And I said, no, I'm actually just taking advantage of or making fun of the situation, not necessarily the disease. But I had already been thinking, something that I could possibly make. And I looked up the recipe for it, and the World Health Organizations happened to have one readily available that ended up being the recipe that the entire hand sanitizer via distillery has gone now, and under the guidance of the FDA.
So this is an actual recipe.
Yep.
Just like we made this cocktail 20 minutes ago to make hand sanitizer.
Yeah, they wanted to make a recipe that would be able to make a hand sanitizer using commonly available goods. And with the recipe for it, it's basically ethanol, which is what we use. That's what you're drinking. A very high proof ethanol, and it's got that glycerin, which we can find pretty easily at most. Glory Bee Foods carries it. There's a lot of companies around that carry that. It's used in e-cigarettes and lubricants and things like that.
Okay.
Then I'm about to pop back onto your live feed, it looks like here. But and then hydrogen peroxide. And the hydrogen peroxide is there as both preservative, I guess, and also oxidizes some of the really, really nasty bugs where they have their own shield that ethanol even has a hard time breaking down.
So hydrogen peroxide, ethanol,
and glycerin. Yeah.
Okay. Are you about to come back on to video?
Yeah, it looks like it. I just have to type in my email address, it looks like.
I've been battling the cat. He's been trying to be the other panelist. What? Well, you've been gone, so that's been happening.
There we are. Hang that up.
I think we're just about to get Kevin back. Kevin, I'm going to make you promote the panelists. And are we back? Kevin, you're going to have to unmute yourself, I think, but you're getting closer to being back online.
Muted.
Okay, now I can hear you. I just can't see you. So you just told us the ingredients of hand sanitizer as defined by the World Health Organization.
Yeah. Once I started researching that and I started getting the supplies ready to make it, and then I found out that there was another distillery locally, Thinking Tree, who was also making hand sanitizer.
I like those guys too.
Yeah, and she got into it quite early. She saw it coming as well and just jumped all over. The demand for hand sanitizer has quite honestly been the thing that has kept us afloat. I didn't know what the heck I was going to do to stay in business because we still had loans to pay, and this wasn't going to stop those from happening. But it has given us the opportunity to both keep our doors open, and there was a lot of worry there too as well. We knew that we couldn't serve people anymore, but we still had people coming in to buy bottles, and then we started giving away the hand sanitizer and selling the hand sanitizer. I wanted to give it away to those who needed it most. We weren't going to ask money from people who were low income, but I also didn't want to say, hey, come get your free hand sanitizer here and have a horde of people outside all disobeying the social distancing measures.
Yeah, that's a part where I say, hey, Justin, are you listening? That part was for you. So keep going.
So then we started donating that to places like Linn County Health and who's the other? The United Way, giving away to homeless shelters, things like that. And the police stations, our first responders.
Awesome.
They've all been tremendous about it. I was a little worried. I got pulled over by a cop the other day, and that was putting me through the ringer because I didn't know what I had done. And I was driving, I happen to have a cop car that has our logo on the side of it. And I was driving that one, and I got pulled over, and I thought he was going to say something about the logo on it. And I was, a little worried because nobody's ever told me if I was like representing the police or misrepresenting the police or something, but I don't think so. He pulled me over. He's like, do you know why I pulled you over this evening? I'm like, honestly, normally I'm the first person to fess up if I was speeding or ran a stoplight or something, but I cannot for life of me figure out why he pulled me over. He's like, well, I just wanted to thank you for what you're doing for our first responders.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that
happy ending. I love it.
And he, right then he just said, have a nice day. And I was so relieved and really happy too. I mean, that to get that kind of response from doing that was really, really neat.
I like that story. Hey, and we had a question earlier about the name of your business. Where does Swallowtail come from?
Swallowtail is actually the Oregon State insect, or the Oregon State butterfly.
Oh, okay.
It's some way to connect our company to the state, and they're pretty abundant here in late spring and summer, even more so in Bend and high desert. But we're going to make them even more abundant here. One of the things that we're going to plan, or that we planned on, and we were in production of it and have kind of slowed down on that. But this facility I've set up both as a nice environment to come and have a cocktail in, have a meeting in. We have event space on the north side of the building, and then on the south side of the building is a very large patio area. We're putting a canopy up, a living canopy up over the outside area that'll be made out of willow that'll be growing and all braided together and make a structure over that. Inside of that canopy, we'll have a bunch of floral and fauna that will attract butterflies. And so then we're going to put butterfly chrysalises in there for all the swallowtails and keep those going for a certain period of time. And we'll have our own.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. The thing that struck me wasn't on the outside of your building, it was on the inside, specifically your countertops. They're like hammered copper.
Yeah, I did all that by hand. I ordered some sheets of copper and wrapped them around the bar, and then my mom and my brother and my friends and anyone who would come in, we'd just hand them a hammer and say, go at it, take some frustration out on the bar.
Everybody wins.
Yeah, it's an antiseptic actually. The copper
Yeah.
is stainless, so it works out well for a bar.
Love it. So, tell me about business today. So,
It's been a wild ride. I thought things were going to calm down for me. I'm not much of one to sit idle. The moment I saw the hand sanitizer movement happening, I jumped in head first. So much head first that I got myself in a bit of trouble because when things like this happen and there's such a strong need, there's government agencies that need this stuff. There's organizations like NATO, for instance.
right.
There was a government contract out from NATO to supply up to, I think, 500,000 gallons of hand sanitizer. I knew.
Sounds like an oil contract, you know?
Yeah. I knew there was no way I was ever going to fulfill that contract on my own. So I asked all the other members of the Oregon Distillers Guild if any of them were willing to help take part in it. And a bunch of them jumped on. And no sooner did we fulfill 2 totes, which are 270 gallons worth. So we gave them 500 and something gallons to kickstart the contract, and all of the ethanol in the country dried up as everybody started making hand sanitizer. Well, that many people making hand sanitizer and the very short supply of ethanol, there was none to be found anywhere. And it took about a week and a half for the system to recover. And even when it did recover, it only recovered in the amount that the plants were now having to ration what they were giving out. So if you didn't have a contract in place already, you weren't going to be getting any ethanol. And if you...
The manufacturers.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So in distilling, there are people that make their own ethanol, and there's people that, and ethanol is basically the alcohol ingredient in all of your cocktails, whether it's whiskey or vodka or gin, it's ethanol that gives you that effect. We can make our own ethanol, and we do in our whiskeys. I don't make it in our vodkas because, in my opinion, vodka is the very first thing that you learn how to make, and it's also the most labor intensive and takes the longest to make because you have to get it up to 190 proof. I have a pot still, which really is only meant to get things up to about 160 proof. But vodka is really easy to make, just takes a while.
Okay.
And it takes a long time. It takes a long time, and but it is easy. So I would rather give that aspect to larger companies that can do it a lot quicker and give it to us faster. So there's a lot of distilleries out there that will use ethanol as their base spirit for all of their cocktails, and then maybe they make their own whiskeys, or maybe they purchase their whiskeys. But the purist of distillers like to make everything from scratch, and I applaud them on that. Not in my business model, but it's definitely something we can do, just not cost effective for me.
Well, man, what a roller coaster. I mean, like almost be, reaching sort of escape velocity, and then have sort of the rug pulled out from under you back in March.
Yeah, I was defeated for sure. We were starting to get orders from all over the country, and through contacts here at International Paper in Springfield, they had hooked us up with their other production facilities throughout the country. And Louisiana was having a really, really hard time. They had 4 diagnoses of COVID-19 in one of their facilities. They had no hand sanitizer. They were still trying to work. People didn't want to come back to work. Mm-hmm. And so we were trying to get them hand sanitizer, and we were ready to ship them everything that we could. I wanted to get it there next day. So we took a bunch of hand sanitizer to FedEx and said it has to get there tomorrow. And they couldn't put it on a plane because it's a high proof alcohol. So
right.
A bit defeating. Here I am thinking that these people are, struggling, and I have what they need to hopefully help, and I can't even get it to them in a reasonable amount of time. But we did end up shipping it to them, but it took a little while to get there. There has been a lot of ups and downs. Having that NATO contract would have been just a great economic boost as well, because here we are helping people, but it's also giving us enough cash flow to keep the doors open and maybe more, and hire back more employees. So because of all this, I have had the opportunity to hire back my employees, at least a few of them.
you want to give a shout out to the program that you told me about the other night that was really helpful to you?
Oh, the PPP program, the payroll protection, I think, program, or paycheck protection, for that. We did receive funds from that one, which is basically, it's a forgivable loan. So as long as you're using it for the majority of it for payroll, that gives us the opportunity to hire our employees back in, and so we have.
And then a local one as well.
So then also through Community Lending Works, there was a loan from them that was based off of how this changes your business model and what you would use the funds for. And basically it was all about hand sanitizer. And I think it's worked out just the way that we had prescribed it to them. So they said it would. Great.
Well, hey.
And cheers to them.
Yeah, cheers to them. Cheers to what it seems like, potentially a happy ending or a happy beginning here in the next few months. And excited to come down. Your guys' shop isn't too far from where I live, and looking forward to the grander opening.
It will be.
I really appreciate you making time this evening, and I really do enjoy your product. I even brought my dad down there the other night, so thank you.
Not a problem. And for anyone else that's listening, we're open for bottle sales, hand sanitizer sales from 11 to 6 Tuesday through Saturday. But if I'm ever here, I don't turn away customers. So if it doesn't look like we're open, but you see me working, just holler at me and I'll help you out.
Right on. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Thank you.
Stay healthy. We'll talk soon. Good night, everybody. Take care. Cheers, Robert.
Cheers, Robert.